At some point, you realize something uncomfortable. Your life didn't suddenly fall apart. It didn't collapse in one dramatic moment. It slowly became small. Not because you failed, but because you kept choosing what felt safe. You wake up. You repeat the same patterns. You tell yourself there's still time. And that's the most dangerous lie of all. Because nothing is technically wrong. Yet nothing feels right either. This video isn't here to motivate you. It's here to confront you. By the end, you won't feel inspired. You'll feel exposed. And once you see your life clearly, you won't be able to unsee it. Most people think their life problems are external. Not enough money. Not enough opportunities. Not enough support. Not enough time. But here's the truth no one tells you. If your life hasn't changed in years, it's not because life is holding you back. It's because you've learned how to survive instead of how to live. Survival feels responsible. It looks mature. It gets praise. You show up. You do what's expected. You avoid risk. You keep things stable. And slowly, stability turns into stagnation. Not dramatic stagnation. Quiet stagnation. The kind where nothing collapses. But nothing grows either. You don't feel lost enough to panic. You don't feel fulfilled enough to relax. So you hover. Days blur together. Months disappear. Years pass. And one day you look at your life and think, how did I end up here? This video exists for that moment. Because once you understand what's actually happening beneath your routines, your habits, and your excuses, you'll realize your life isn't broken. It's unquestioned. And unquestioned lives don't change. They repeat. Your life today is the result of decisions you stopped questioning. Your schedule. Your job. Your relationships. Your routines. At some point, you didn't actively choose them. You accepted them. That's how most people live. They don't design their lives. They inherit them. From parents. From culture. From fear. From convenience. And the scariest part? You can feel dissatisfied. Without knowing why. Because everything looks normal. Normal work hours. Normal stress. Normal exhaustion. Normal dreams postponed. But normal is not neutral. Normal is a direction. And if you follow a direction long enough, it becomes a destination. Most people never stop to ask, why am I doing this? Who is this actually for? If nothing changed, would I accept this life in 10 years? Because questioning feels dangerous. If you question honestly, you might realize you don't like the path you're on. You're living according to outdated versions of yourself. You've been optimizing for comfort, not meaning. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. So people stay busy instead. Busyness is the greatest defense against self-awareness. As long as you're tired, distracted, and occupied, you don't have to face the deeper question. Is this really the life I want? Most people avoid that question their entire lives. That's not weakness. That's conditioning. But awareness changes everything. Because the moment you start questioning, your life stops being automatic. And automatic lives don't evolve. They repeat. Comfort itself isn't evil. The problem is attachment to comfort. Comfort becomes dangerous when it decides what risks you take, what truths you avoid, what version of yourself you protect. Most people don't choose comfort consciously. They drift into it. They choose the option with less friction, less uncertainty, less short-term discomfort. And over time, those choices compound. Not into happiness, but into predictability. Predictability feels safe. But safety isn't fulfillment. Comfort slowly trains you to avoid tension, avoid growth, avoid responsibility for your potential. And here's the brutal part. Comfort never tells you it's limiting you. It whispers. You're being realistic. This is fine for now. You can change later. Later becomes years. Years become identity. And eventually, comfort doesn't just feel safe. It feels necessary. That's when people panic at the idea of change. Not because change is impossible, but because their identity is built around avoiding discomfort. They don't fear failure. They fear instability. They fear becoming a beginner again. They fear losing social approval. They fear discovering they waited too long. So they stay. And call it patience. Or responsibility. Or maturity. But deep down, something feels off. That's not intuition being dramatic. That's your potential suffocating quietly. Growth requires tension. Meaning requires effort. And identity requires pressure. You don't become more alive by protecting comfort. You become more alive by earning stability after growth, not before it. You don't feel like you're running out of time. That's the problem. Time doesn't disappear loudly. It disappears silently. Days feel long. Years feel short. And because nothing dramatic is happening, you assume you have plenty of time. But look closer. You're not just spending time. You're trading it. Every day you trade time for distraction, avoidance, short-term relief, familiar routines. And the trade feels harmless. Until you realize you can't get refunds. People say, I still have time. What they mean is, I'm hoping future me will do what present me avoids. But future you doesn't magically become braver. Future you is trained by present behavior. If today is passive, tomorrow will be cautious. If today avoids risk, tomorrow fears change. Time doesn't transform you. Repetition does. And repetition without intention creates drift. That's why people wake up one day feeling behind, regretful, confused about how life moved so fast. They didn't waste time recklessly. They wasted it carefully. That's far more dangerous. Because careful wasting feels responsible. Until it's too late to renegotiate with reality. Your biggest limitation isn't your situation. It's the story you tell about who you are. I'm just not disciplined. I'm not that type of person. This is just how I am. Those aren't facts. They're repeated conclusions. Identity is built through evidence. Every action is a vote. And most people keep voting for the same version of themselves. Even when they want change. Why? Because identity feels stable. And stability feels safe. Even if it's painful. So people protect the identity they know. Instead of risking the one they want. They say they want confidence. But avoid situations that would build it. They say they want freedom. But avoid responsibility. They say they want growth. But avoid discomfort. And then they blame themselves for not changing. But change doesn't start with motivation. It starts with contradiction. Doing something that doesn't match who you think you are. That moment is uncomfortable. Because it threatens identity. But that discomfort is not danger. It's expansion. Every version of you that exists today was once unfamiliar. And every version of you that doesn't exist yet is waiting for action, not clarity. Most people try to change their life by changing outcomes. New job. New routine. New environment. But nothing sticks if your standards stay the same. Standards decide what you tolerate, what you repeat, what you walk away from. If your standard for effort is low, discipline feels oppressive. If your standard for honesty is low, self-deception feels normal. If your standard for growth is low, comfort feels earned. Raising your standard isn't dramatic. It's quiet. It looks like doing what you said you'd do. Even when no one sees. Especially when no one sees. It's choosing consistency over intensity. Structure over emotion. Commitment over inspiration. Most people wait for their life to change before raising their standards. Successful people raise their standards before their life reflects it. That's the difference. Your life doesn't rise to your goals. It falls to your standards. Once you truly see your life, you can't unknow it. That's why awareness is uncomfortable. Because now excuses don't work the same way. You know when you're avoiding. You know when you're choosing comfort. You know when you're wasting time. And that knowledge creates tension. You either act or numb yourself. That's the fork. Most people numb. More scrolling. More entertainment. More distractions. Because action demands responsibility. And responsibility means admitting you could live differently. That's heavy. But it's also liberating. Because once you accept responsibility, you regain control. Not over outcomes. Over direction. And direction is everything. Here's the truth. This video won't change your life. But what you do after it might. Not because you suddenly feel motivated. But because you can't pretend you didn't see yourself in it. Your life doesn't need to collapse for you to change it. It needs to be questioned. You don't need clarity. You need commitment. You don't need confidence. You need action. And you don't need more time. You need to stop trading it for comfort. Most people will close this video and return to normal. That's easy. The harder choice is to act differently. Without announcing it. Quietly. Consistently. Relentlessly. Because once you see your life clearly, the only real tragedy is choosing not to change it.